Hey guys, John with JRSP, Johnson Rally Self Protection, and today we are bringing you the third Seardo Hammerfist strike. It is going to be the downward Hammerfist strike, and of course, once again, like I say, you can do each one of these techniques with a loaded fist or with a fist load or some type of Yawara, like some type of palm stick. You can load your fist like and perform each one of these hammerfist strikes with a Yawara stick or some type of palm stick. And so that's why I got, of course, our JRSP handler. So anyhow, this technique is the downward hammer fist strike, and it's gonna probably be one of the most versatile in the group because this strike, I mean, it could just come out of nowhere basically, and you could be in like a hands up guarded position, and you could come down, but you could also like come out with it as well. So just straight out into the face. It's really good when you got a palm stick or something, but we'll demonstrate it without the palm stick on Bob. And like I say, none of these techniques have a set target destination. Like, I'm not telling you, oh yeah, like I said in the first video for hammerfist strikes, like that we did, the inward hammerfist strike. Yeah, I feel personally that going for those ribs, it fits really good there. And then the second one we did, the outward hammerfist strike, I feel it works really good up top. But just because I personally feel that it works really well in those situations doesn't mean that it's bound by what I feel. But I'll tell you right now, this downward hammerfist strike, it like you can strike the nose here, right here like that. You can strike the forehead. People, like I've heard Greg Tampon over at Bone Tactical say, "Oh, the forehead is a no area. Don't strike the forehead." I understand. Don't strike the forehead with a fist, with like if you're punching, because you'll break your hand. But right here, you're using the meaty portion of the hand. This can withstand a lot more damage, basically. So you could definitely strike the forehead with this and definitely survive it and definitely cause a lot of damage to your adversary. Am I recommending that? No, but you definitely can, and you may not break your hand. But still, like, the forehead's a very hard surface, so just always remember that. But I would say striking to that nose is a better target right there. You can come down onto the collarbone and the trapezius right here. You can just do a punch with this downward hammerfist technique. It can be modified to come down over the side of the neck. It's just a really good technique. One of the, like I say, most versatile hammerfist strikes that you're going to come across. And that's why it's one of my favorite hammerfist strikes. So, you could be in your defensive, come in, and really just jack this dude, break his collarbone. Right there. It does not take a lot to break the collarbone. The collarbone is a very, very fragile bone. It does not take a lot of force. And I mean, you could definitely do it if you hit hard enough and you hit just right with a downward hammerfist strike. So that is what that is, guys. That is the Seardo downward hammerfist strike. That is the third hammerfist strike in this series. We've gone over the inward hammerfist, we've gone over the outward hammerfist, and that is the downward hammerfist strike. Okay, just if you're going to practice that, just spend, like I say, 15, 20 minutes, if not more, just practicing that. It's always good to have sometimes if you're gonna self train, okay, some people are like, "Oh, you can't learn anything from videos or whatever." That is absolute bull crap. Okay, you can definitely learn stuff on your own, but I mean, can you learn to do jujitsu? Like, probably not, because you do need a live body. That's wrestling, But any type of striking art, like, especially if it's simplistic, military wise, like, I study a lot of Marine Corps McMap style techniques and stuff because I study basically Marine Corps McMap, but it wasn't called McMap, the field manual that I study. I study like it was a precursor to McMap. It was like MCCC something like we just called it M3CP or whatever, something like that, because it it was in the transition of Marine Corps line to McMap, and it was before they added like basically kind of the martial art principles into what would become McMap. But it's basically McMap without the like jargon and the ethos and the martial arts stuff. But yeah, you can find that field manual anywhere, and it's a very very like to the point, detailed field manual that I mean, you could learn it. You could learn to be very efficient from just reading that field manual if you know what you're doing. But you have to have something like a bob. If you don't have a actual physical live person to train with, a training partner, you definitely need some type of anatomical reference. Like, because if you don't have that, then you're just not really going to know, like, where to, like, I guess what I'm trying to say, you're not going to know how to train. Okay? Like, Bob is an exact, pretty much anatomical reference of a human. And of course, Bob doesn't come with arms. You have to buy that separately. But if you're going to buy a Bob, I definitely recommend that you get that. You get arms, or you get the one that is like there's one that it's kind of like a tripod or whatever, like where so you could also slam it and stuff and throw it. That's the one I would recommend getting. But Bobs are a lot of money, so but they're definitely worth the investment because some people say nothing beats training with an actual live person, and I'm not going to say that. Okay, I've trained sparred with live people. It's good. It has its pros and its cons, and training with a bob has its pros and its cons. Training with a live person, the pros and the cons are going to be that, well, you may not always be able to get them when you need to train. They may be unavailable. They may like have prior commitments to something else, and so that's going to put you out on your training. Another thing is, human beings, they feel pain. They may get hurt or whatever and stuff like that. They may not want to come back and stuff like that. So those are just some of the cons to think about when you're training with a live person. Some of the cons to think about when you're training with Bob is that Bob does not move. Okay, Bob is, like we say, he's static, but he's an anatomical reference. But Bob's not going to hit back. Bob's not going to give you really any like pressing resistance to really make you feel the pressure and really um, be able to pressure test your techniques. But at the same time, Bob is not going to give you the call like, hey, I can't make it in today, and you're not going to hurt Bob. Okay, you're not going to hurt Bob so bad that he doesn't want to come back to practice, to train. Bob's always going to be available once you make that commitment and that investment to go ahead and get one. And I would definitely say that the pros of having a Bob outweigh the cons, because you could definitely get around some of the cons and stuff like that using visualization training and stuff. So definitely recommend getting a bob. And like I say, people say, "Oh, you can't learn anything on your own and stuff and whatnot." It's like you have to go train with an expert and stuff. It's like that's bullcrap. And a lot of the times you're gonna, you know, pay a lot of money just for some, like I said, bullcrap, and you're gonna end up like me, ticked off that you paid so much money and it just all kind of went down the drain. Like when I trained for 7 months at Future Dragons Kung Fu, it was just all kind of for nothing. I mean, yeah, I learned a little bit of Sanda kickboxing and stuff like that, but ultimately, I feel like um, it was like just a waste of my time. And then training in judo, that was I don't feel training with judo was a waste of my time. That was great. I regret how that ended. Um, I don't at all regret how training at Future Dragons Kung Fu ended because, like I say, Kung Fu, in my opinion, sucks, and I wasn't there for the Kung Fu. I think their Sanda kickboxing was great. I think Sanda kickboxing in general is great. It's like if you have a place where you can go train Sanda kickboxing, I would say go train the Sanda kickboxing all day. Am I going to ever recommend you train Kung Fu? No, and I definitely have a bias about Kung Fu now after my personal experience, but not, I'm not going to tell you to not train kung fu. If you love training kung fu, if you're like, you may end up like Dominic Izzo, who's someone who, you know, talks about kung fu all the time, like he's the expert and whatever and stuff like that. But like I say, I'm not a hand-to-hand combat expert. That's the disclaimer here. Um, but I just have done a lot of things, and I see a lot of things on the internet that make me say, "Oh man, it's like you got these guys out here teaching people, like teaching like little 98 pound women to freaking like do jujitsu with like a 250 pound man." It's like, come on, man. The dude's gonna, you know, he's gonna pick you up and take you places that you don't want to go, and you need something. You need a freaking knife, okay? Any woman needs a knife, okay, or a gun or something. And that's why my biggest thing is to always have something. And like we haven't really talked about this right here. We need to make a video about this. And my next video will probably be kind of deterring away briefly from the hammer fist because we got one more hammer fist in the series to show you, but the next video will probably be a video about um, the Kelly Warden safety wrench, not the travel wrench, which we've talked about on this channel. This is the Kelly Warden safety wrench, and yeah, I don't think I've done a video on this yet, which is crazy because this is this is a mean thing right here, man. Like just how it like holds in the hand and stuff, how it's designed, you know, Kelly Warden safety wrench. But hey, you guys, this has been another episode of JRSP. We just went over the third Seardo Hammer Fist Strike. Always remember that, the world is a big place and all the dangers are very real. I saw something and I can't even remember what it was because, now I'm 35 and I'm getting old, and, it's like, thought just went right out of my head. But it was something about, just about how all the dangers are very real. But maybe in the next video I remember and I'll be like, that's what I was thinking. That's what it was. Whoa. Like in the next video, I'll just be going on about something else and I'll be like, I remember what it was and I needed to tell you guys what I was trying to tell y'all. Like an old man. But, and like I always say, whew, whenever you can, it's always better just to walk away. Just there's no conflict worth your life. Okay, there's no amount of words said or anything that'll worth your life. You get into a situation like in physical altercation, you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know where the other guy, but like how far the other guy is willing to go. You don't know what his mindset is. A lot of times, you don't know if he's gonna pull a gun or a knife. Sometimes these things, the other guy is just not gonna quit. Um, so I don't. I'm not showing you guys this stuff like so that you guys can go out and become street fighters. If you train with me and you train in Seardo, you're not a fighter. You're not training to be a fighter. You're training to be a neutralizer. Okay, just like E in Seardo, engage, neutralize, exit the situation. You're training to be a neutralizer. I've always said, yeah, I don't want any smoke with anybody. I just want to live in peace. Sometimes you have to stand up though, and the Seardo credo: only fight to protect, only fight to defend. Never be afraid to stand, never be afraid to strike. Always stay calm, always stay in control. I say that to my son and my daughter every night before they go to bed. Yeah, I came up with that right there. I say, I didn't come up with a lot of stuff, like a lot of the techniques and stuff in Seardo and whatever, because, I mean, you're not going to reinvent the wheel when it comes to like combat techniques. But I did come up with that credo. Um, and, it's like sometimes you got to stand up for yourself. But I would say only fight to protect others before yourself, then only fight to defend, in the same capacity, others before yourself. You know, never be afraid to stand up for yourself, what you believe in, and stuff like that. Never be afraid to strike when you have to. Always stay calm because, if you're going into a situation and you're, out of control and frazzled and whatever and stuff like that, that's not going to help the situation at all. You got to always go into all these situations. You got to be calm. You got to take everything and absorb everything calmly. So then you can come up with the best possible, response for the outcome and everything. And then, you always stay in control of your emotions. I mean, there's going to be times when somebody's got you so ticked off and whatever and stuff like that, and you just feel it in you. You feel light, and you're you feel the trembles, and you're just so frazzled, and but you got to stay in control, because the moment you lose control, that's the moment stupid stuff happens, and you see it all the time. Just watch Law and Crime, where people lost control, and people got stabbed, people got shot, people got beat to death, and it's like you got to stay in control of your emotions. It's easier said than done, but when you're losing control, think of the Seardo Credo and think of that one right there. Always stay in control. You got to like remain in control of your emotions, and because I've been saying that ever since 2015, that's helped me so much. I don't have a criminal record. I don't have a history of violence and stuff like that, because anytime that there was a situation that like I felt like, oh man, I was gonna do something stupid, I always remembered that part of the credo. Always stay in control, and I've always stayed in control. So yeah, guys. Whew. This is JRSP, Johnson Rally Self Protection. You guys take it easy.